Mark, let's switch the topic a little bit to analytics and how SunTrust is using analytics. And are they being used more as an internal management tool to guide the marketing organization, or is it analytics that, in fact, the customer sees?
That's a good question. So, of late, our analytics were really used for credit quality, right? We developed a whole bunch. There was something called the Basel Standard, which requires you to take all of the decisions you made about a loan and back test how you did. So you priced it this way. This is how it turned out. How did you do? And if you didn't do well, you have to put more capital on the table. And it was really on commercial, not on mortgage. It turned out that that kind of analytical process worked real well on mortgage. So when mortgage started going the way it did, we took that analytics capability and focused it on our mortgage portfolios, and we could see and tell where people were getting into trouble. Now, we talked about silos earlier. I hate to say it, but if you have a card group and a mortgage group and a commercial loan group and a deposits group, they're all in silos and they're all doing analytics and nobody's looking at the big picture. So if you're not paying your credit card and you're not paying your home equity loan and you're not paying your mortgage, it used to be that 3 different people would call you and 3 people would see it, and it wouldn't be, we're having an issue with this relationship, let's restructure it. Now, here's where the benefit to clients are. At the end of the day, this forced the bank to think about, well, how would we have a portfolio relationship with the client, which is not something those product folks who were incented to kind of drive their product sales ever thought. And because of the crisis, we've actually restructured a lot of our relationships with some of these clients that got into distress. And now that portfolio type of thing that was really something only high-end commercial clients got, they're getting as a result of this. And the bank has sort of backed into, well, if we have systems and I don't have to have a lot of people in this process, why wouldn't I do it? Because my cost of sales is lower. Now, it may not be the most ideal way to back into that, but it is allowing us to do that. Just like the credit card customer who gets the pleasant, something has happened and they get the call before they even realize that there's been a fraud event. So I think there's some positive benefits to that.
Rajiv, would you take a look at that analytics from your perspective?
I got so carried away by Mark's answer. What was the question again? Is it for our internal purpose or?
Well, it's the use of analytics in terms of you're building analytics, and so that your customers would be SunTrust and the like. What do you see as opportunities, and how analytics or business intelligence can be applied to the processes that exist within these organizations?
Okay. My belief is analytics as a science is at a point of inflection. What technology did about 30, 40 years back, with the advent of computer and internet, and suddenly everything had to be put on technology, etc., etc. And now it's kind of who amongst us doesn't deal with technology every second of our life? I think analytics is going to go through such a change where it will be ubiquitous in every aspect of our life. And the reason is the preponderance of data. At the end of the day, analytics is extracting relevant intelligence from a sea of data, right? Today, data collection methods have become so cheap, so easy. We talked about the iPhone. Okay, today data is being collected by machines. It's no more human beings. You walk from here downstairs and the iPhone knows that you walked from here downstairs, perhaps even which elevator you took, right? The amount of data that is being collected, because the collection mechanism has become much easier and the data storage has become much cheaper, the only way you are going to make more and more intelligent decisions when more data is thrown at you is more and more intelligent analytics. So I think analytics is going to come down from this esoteric science used by big entities and all to a matter of fact every day like we use technology. I think that's a 15 to 20 years change that we are going to go through. I believe that in the next 5 to 10 years, statisticians studying statistics in colleges is going to be as exciting as studying computer science used to be about 15, 20 years back. I really believe these theories. That said, with that perspective of analytics, um, I, I am of the firm belief that there will be different streams of analytics are going to move at different speed. For example, what I call the core analytics, which is business intelligence, like what happened and where did it happen? Just answering these questions, call it reporting, call it neural networks going into data and finding out. I think that stream is, you'll see a lot of investment dollars being put in it, because banks are trying to figure out which customer did what, when, where, just trying to understand what happened. That's huge investment dollars will come. The next layer of investment dollars that will come is, will it happen again? Okay, some people call it predictive sciences. Credit card, you talked about, models. Credit models are, what's our company's business? Credit report, credit scores. What does it do? Just tries to predict, are you going to do a bad thing again? Or what are you going to do? So it's that whole stream of science of, will it happen again? Or what might happen? Okay, I think that's where the next level of investments over the next 5 to 10 years will happen. And the third is, how do I benefit from that? And that's going to be the whole stream of optimization that will sit on top of these three layers. I know SunTrust, for example, is putting a lot of effort right now, mostly internal, which we should correct. But they're putting a lot of effort around how to intelligently price their product. He talked about bundling. Like, what's the intelligent way of pricing to Don versus Rajiv, right? Those are massive optimization problems. So that's the third layer of, with the knowledge of what has happened, can it happen again or will it happen again, and how do I benefit from that knowledge? I think I see that's the levels of opportunities over the next 5 to 10 years that will come.
We have about 5 more minutes, and I want to turn it over to the audience to ask questions on anything we've talked about today. So questions, yes, sir.
I think it's a fallacy we have that technology group and business groups are, there is a separation between technology group. There is a supply chain of customer, business people, and technology group. That's the one thing I changed when I came to Equifax, right? You cannot have innovation. You cannot have customer beating products if you have that supply chain of customer, business, and technology. By the way, within business, there are multiple layers. As in technology, there are multiple layers. Somebody writes requirements, somebody writes code, etc. I think the attitude and the structure needs to be, instead of a straight supply chain, think of the organization and structure the organization as a team. There is only one customer. Business is not technology's customer. I have fundamentally believed this. I'm very emotional about that topic. There is only one customer, and that's the one who puts money on the table. The rest are team members in a team. Surely the business lead, the account executive is the quarterback. But at the end of the day, the question should be not how you get close to business, how do you get close to what the customers of that business is going. There are different organizational approaches to that, but if there's one thing I can tell you is that's the one thing that's benefited my organization most. I didn't answer your full question, but I gave you the emotional point there.
See, that's pretty impressive. He gets off a long journey from India, and he's still got passion. That's great. Any other panelists who'd like to answer that? I think Olin. Okay, go ahead, John.
For First Data, we've recently, and it's been fairly recently, made our product development group a larger group, building on Rajiv's point. So it's not business people, it's business and technology people across multiple groups that come together to understand what the product development initiatives could be. And that's more around the art of the possible. And I think that's what happens when technology and business and operations people come together in a product development effort. You get the art of the possible. But the other important piece, and it's important in analytics as well, in fact, it's particularly important in analytics, is the voice of the customer. And I don't think that organizations have done enough to go out and look at the voice of the customer, the person who puts the money on the table. So we have some specific initiatives where the business and IT groups with our relationship managers are out talking to customers about the possible products. You get a lot of information if you ask somebody what they want, and we're all about starting that. on a much more, let's say, rigorous basis than we ever have in the past.
I'm very fortunate in that I am aligned with a group of business executives around the acquiring space. And the way that we approach this is there are really three things that customers are looking for. They want the systems to keep running. They want to, if they have specific requests, customizations, reporting, things like that, they want those fulfilled in a timely manner. And then thirdly, they want you to innovate and come out with new products. So we've aligned our business and IT groups in a very similar way. So you have a business owner around new product and strategic development and a corresponding IT resource that has the same thing, and that's all they work on. You have what we call a professional services group, which is taking care of existing customers, and a corresponding IT manager for the same thing. And then the third prong is really around production support. So it's keep the system running. And in doing that, not only do you get alignment with the business, you get a level of focus in those groups where traditionally I think in IT you'd have a situation where somebody's working on something strategic, system has a problem, and you pull them over there for 2 days to sort that out, fix it, deal with making sure it doesn't happen again, and then when they go back to their normal role, they're 3 days behind. So very fortunate that we're organized that way. I think it's a great way to look at things.
Mark, you want to handle that?
Well, that's a real broad topic. So we run a full-blown business architecture, enterprise architecture model now at SunTrust. At some level, PowerPointing people to death hasn't worked. So what we've done is we've taken this portfolio model and have driven it all the way up into the business so that when we construct the company's business plans, they follow that portfolio model. And it's pretty clear because it also includes business architecture and business processes. I can't convey to you how much of it's still manual in the business, so there's a lot of motivation for why the banks would have to do that, but we've been fortunate enough to be able to do that. Several years ago, when we started the portfolio management and only focused really on technology projects, one of the main things was we had business sponsors of these portfolios. So as we grew it into, we could just do the business strategy that way, it made more sense, and the amount of money that we direct now is effectively 8 times what it was when it was just the technology company. We look at all of the, really capital deployment in the corporation and figure out how to do that. Now, as a practical matter, one of the things that we did in technology delivery is we have a role called relationship managers, and a lot of people who serve customers have account managers, so this is not a secret that you would do. And at some level, we engage with the business in the way they want to be engaged with. I cannot predict what kind of business model they will have today or tomorrow. So we organize that relationship function based on how those business units are organized. That said, back down, where we're running the technology, where I call it terrain-based, but what I mean is there's the terrain of the land, and it is what it is. I know sometimes a business goes, well, I want to run consumer, and so the consumer bank needs to have its own systems. Well, we don't have enough money for that, so we're not going to do that. Part of that, too, is educating folks about, what their role is. So the consumer bank has also learned that, we all share your deposit system, and you all drive the majority investment on the internet and the channels and the marketing and the advertising. So you know what? You have a responsibility to us to look at our stuff. It isn't all about you. Now, when those kind of issues get vetted out on the business side before they come down to engineering, that's always a great thing, because it's easy to pick on engineers and not a real pretty sight to do that. We're still learning. A lot of it has been because of the regulatory climate or whatever change has gone on in the industry, which has been unprecedented, but it is something that's good. And I think if you look at sort of investor relations and look at some of the differences that you see now in the SunTrust presentations, you'll begin to see some of those changes as how the company views itself. knowing more about its business. Part of that is ultimately we're understanding what business we're in, what segments we're doing, what we do well and what we don't do well, and trying to articulate a strategy around that. And that's something that modern business does, but something that we're acclimating to.
John, did you want to tackle that? No. Okay. Folks, I think we've gone a little bit past our time. Is there any one final question from anyone that just has to be asked? Okay. Well, I've contacted each of your managers, and they've said you have the afternoon off, so you're all okay there. No, you don't. Whoops, overruled. I want to thank our panelists with a little gift for each of them, for you two guys. And but would you share your enthusiasm by giving these guys a round of applause? Thanks so much for coming and staying with us. I hope you had a great lunch. We are going to continue programs like this at FinTech. Please mark your calendars for November, and it's on the little green sheet that's at each of your places. We'll deal more at the business level. This has been focused at the technology level. Thank you so much for coming. We'll see you at the next session.